Welcome back to Athens, Greece, where Fnatic and G2 are tied at 1-1 in this final series of the LEC split. Frosk, Vedius, we've seen it all in these first two games, but what are our expectations coming into Game 3?
The thing that I'm really looking for is Hilly to get a playmaking oriented champion. It feels like the diffusal of Hilly not having one of his explosive champions is really slowed down the 2v2, whereas normally we've seen Rekkles and Hilly winning this 2v2. Now it's going to the Perkz and Mikyx camp, and that seems to be kind of the key component to a lot of G2 success, whereas Jankos gets to kind of dictate where he's applying pressure to the map and not putting out fires, and it starts in bot.
I also think that the top lane matchup is really important for Fnatic. I think that if Bwipo is behind, he really struggles to have an impact on the map, whereas you look at Wunder, he's pretty consistent, and when he's put in a winning position, he really wins hard. He was able to snowball so effectively through the top side of the map that I think that it is very important that Fnatic have some way to control him.
So in Game 1 and Game 2, we saw Fnatic save their top laner for last pick. It was Kled on the side of G2 both games, and then Jax and Renekton. We'll see if Fnatic say, okay, the Kled is a problem, we need to ban that away, or if they're willing to wait for that last pick and find a new counter.
And again, we are G2 on the blue side, Fnatic on the red side. So it should be Aatrox, TF, Rakan for G2, and Qiyana, Yasuo, and Yuumi for Fnatic if the bans stay completely the same.
This is the big question mark. It's always that final ban from Fnatic that you're often wondering about. Perhaps they just leave the Yuumi open, deny Mikyx his playmaking power, and just concede the fact that, hey, we might not guarantee an advantageous 2v2 in the bot, but it gives us advantages elsewhere. Instead, Fnatic's saying, you know, no, we still want to take this off the board, and of course, G2 will priority pick the Sylas.
I think the scary thing is, at this point, even though Rekkles and Hilly are excellent at playing Garen Yuumi, I still think that having Hilly on a playmaking champion that can start fights is so important, at least for this series today, that if G2 didn't prioritize the Yuumi, I don't know if Fnatic would want to pick it up.
It looks like G2 and Fnatic looking to replicate what we saw in Game 2. G2 going to be locking in the Kai'Sa plus the Kled this time round, so they will not early priority the Thresh.
I really like this variation though, because you assume Fnatic would ban out the Kled in the second rotation if it was left open. So you get it for yourself early, and you give Wunder a strong top lane pick.
But here's where the adaptation comes in. So prioritizing Bwipo's champion that Vedius called for earlier on, that means that Rekkles and Hilly will have to take kind of the short end of the stick and see where they get pinched and what they end up with. I'm expecting that they'll probably want to go for something like the Ezreal, like the Karmas, to allow Hilly to unlock from this lane and start roaming around.
I would love to see a Jarvan ban actually come out from Fnatic right now. I think that it is a very potent early game jungler that Jankos had a fantastic performance on last game, and I think you have to be very aware of its impact. Of course, the other potential champion is the Elise for Jankos, a champion that he is very proficient on and loves to set up dives with. And if you think about the Elise Kled combo, the ability to shut down this Jax is very prominent in the early game.
But that's the thing, it's the Elise Kled combo, because otherwise you have a ton of magic damage in terms of your composition profile that you'd be dealing with. So while he could go towards the Elise, I think that there's a little bit more risk in that.
Definitely could be the case with the Xayah removed by G2, Thresh taken away here by Fnatic, and Skarner taken away by them as well. The Karma will get removed, and that's targeted probably towards Rekkles, but could of course be triple flexed, and here we go! Here we go! When the chips are down, Rekkles looks to his most signature pick, the Tristana.
It was either going to be the Ezreal, it was going to be the Tristana. They can accomplish similar things. Now that said, Tristana gives you a bit more attack in the lane phase, especially at that level 2, pending what the support matchup is going to be between Hilly and Mikyx here.
Ooh, G2 hovering the pike right now. I'd be surprised if they locked it in with the Sejuani open, and of course, Jankos' signature Sejuani pick. Few can survive his onslaught, but it definitely supplements the team fight style that G2's composition is already going for. When you have Sylas, when you have Kai'Sa and a Kled, this is just further engage and crowd control to facilitate the already strong 5v5.
And if they put a Pyke as the cherry on top of this, it would mean that there's so much river control here. One of the things that Sejuani really excels at is her ability to take the scuttle grab, and then if you can contest her CC lockdown and kind of her burst damage in the early game, and how well she pairs with champions like Kled and Sylas. If Caps and Wunder ever get roam potential and Jankos is in that river, it's very terrifying for Fnatic to step foot into it.
And we'll see how Fnatic decide to answer the Braum Kai'Sa lane they are facing. Of course, that Gragas could be flexed into support. Shen is locked in. Expect that to be going to Hylissang in the bottom lane.
So what this sets the expectation for is early gank bot lane for Fnatic. Shen is incredibly potent at early levels, especially when paired up with a Tristana. This is a kill lane, and you have to respect it.
Especially paired into playing against a Braum Kai'Sa, they're all about stacking up auto attacks in the lane. You put down the Spirit's Refuge, you can't get the stun, and you can't get the plasma off.
But the scary thing is which jungler gets down there first? While there's plenty of 2v2 kill threat from the likes of a Tristana and a Shin at level 2 if they decide to go all in, if Sejuani gets involved, Sejuani Braum are a disgusting combo if any one of them gets a hold of you.
Looking at these comps in their entirety again, Fnatic can play the map very well. They have strong side laners, and they're going to be looking to gain advantages in their 2 solo lanes with which that they can leverage come the mid game. Whereas G2, definitely a lot more about scaling and team fighting. They don't have the strongest early game setup, but I do think that they have options to play around the top side of the map, and that's where I want to see Jankos go. But in terms of the early game advantage, I feel like this is Fnatic's ballpark, and we know how this series goes. Team that gets an early lead is usually the one that wins the game.
Usually, whichever team is ahead at 15 minutes will go on to take down the Nexus. I'm sure a lot of the Fnatic fans here in Athens will be hoping that's the case. And strong early game composition from them. We'll see how good they are at enacting that, because G2 in the last game were able to find ways to pen them back early on.
My eyes again on this bot lane. What's going to happen? Will Hilly and Rekkles make Perkz and Mikyx break? Can Perkz and Mikyx survive the onslaught? And what will Jankos do to Broxah in the early game?
We will find out as we go on to Summoner's Rift. Third game of the day. Winner of this is on match point. G2 looking for their 6th ever LEC title. Fnatic already at 7, looking for number 8.
Beautiful look down the mid lane at our gorgeous trophy there. Want to check in on the summoner spells? Maybe hold it though. We have a possible setup. The cleanse coming out of Perkz as well as the exhaust coming out of Mikyx. A lot of respect from G2's bot lane towards Fnatic's.
Yeah, they know that Hylissang and Rekkles are not afraid to fight. We saw that in game 1. The duo found a lot of early kills. They were willing to trade blow for blow against the aggression that we often see from G2. And so by running the cleanse, of course, you have to be careful about when you choose your back timings. It just goes to show that in terms of the 2v2 setup, Fnatic will likely have the advantage for the majority of the early laning phase, which is why I feel so strongly that G2 should be looking to play around the top side of the map in the early game.
That can be dangerous though, because as soon as Hilly gets access to level 6, suddenly playing top side, you're playing at a potential numbers disadvantage.
True. So Caps was in the right position to spot this out. The ward goes down, will be cleared away by Fnatic, but immediately Jankos jumps onto Rekkles. He's going to have to hop away, and maybe Fnatic will be dissuaded from this. Instead, they say, okay, let's party. We want the level 1. We own the level 1. G2 trying to fight back. Rekkles already down to half HP. He's running away. Fnatic just looking for the steal here if they can get it. The second Oracles is used, and now Fnatic have to stay around. They're going for it. It's taken by Perkz. He doesn't even have smite. What were the junglers doing? The taunt comes out as Caps tries to chase it, and Broxah has to flash away. Hylissang burn his as well, but now with the exhaust coming down, Perkz will land the red buff slow, and Broxah is in for a world of hurt. There's no escape. G2 first blood. And the early game falls apart already for Fnatic. They tried to do a delayed level 1 invade, but G2 was ready for it. They were willing to challenge Fnatic. They end up coming out on top.
And now this bot lane in particular can be heavily affected. You're missing flash on Hilly. He does have access to the Hex flash there, but it's going to be that much harder to find that CC that you need. And Perkz has the red buff.
But look at the lack of summoners on G2's bot lane. Both of them burnt that flash to get an early kill that went down onto Jankos. So while he did lose his red buff, he at least gets some gold in compensation, but at the end of the day, it still means that Fnatic's 2 versus 2 can be looking for fights, looking for trades, and should be able to come out on top.
And a question we asked in draft was which jungler would be able to have an impact on the map first. Broxah's still only level 1. Jankos is going to actually still
He's
level 1
as well, Medic.
I forgot he didn't get the red, but yes, both junglers are penned back early on. Jankos actually having to back on the Sejuani here. She does go very low without any assistance.
Look, level 2 gank now coming in from Broxah towards the top side of the map. He will be spotted out by Wunder, who's going to go for an early base, and that wave should actually be pushing back towards Wunder, so I don't think he's going to be too worried about that for the time being.
Actually, really smart timing from Wunder right there. Now uses the TP. Jankos is running towards his blue. I'll hold it.
Perkz uses the cleanse, a brick will put up by Mikyx here, and Perkz has the red buff. trying to get the damage down onto Rekkles and Hylissang, but it looks like Fnatic are coming out on top in these trades in bottom lane.
And again, it's about Fnatic trying to look for that all-in, make sure that they can land on you with the Tristana, hit the taunt, whereas G2 are really trying to play the long con. They want the red buff to do the damage for them. It's about those short trades where they can start to poke Fnatic out.
Meanwhile, the mid lane, very similar to what we've seen all series long. Actually, Nemesis having a bit of an advantage. And for us, something you were talking about in the break was how Caps honestly hasn't had the strongest series. It's quite fascinating how we've been seeing G2 pick Caps up after what has been a difficult series for him. And it just goes to show the strength of G2 that when a single member falls, there are still many other carries that can make up for the deficit.
And while Caps has kind of disappeared this series or not had the same impact, it speaks to the fact that there's still this final form of G2. You know that Caps can go from craps to collapse and start popping off, and as soon as that happens, that's when things can get very scary. So my eyes are on Nemesis on this Akali pick. What can he do to try to slow this down or match the pressure? He's the guy who has to fill Caps' shoes, and what a bigger stage to do it on.
Because I do think that Nemesis has done a pretty good job of controlling Caps so far in the laning phase, and unfortunately for Nemesis, he hasn't really had an opportunity to shine, but the pressure hasn't really fallen on him to be the big carry. He needs to be that consistent as G2 look for a trade.
Remember what I talked about river control and Sejuani. She is excellent at doing it, and again, if her solo lanes ever have roam potential, Jankos is going to feel so confident walking into a river every single time. She's got early burst damage, she has hard CC, she has great setup.
Especially when you team her up with someone like the Braum, you can stun lock someone for days. Now Rekkles going to teleport down here into the bottom lane, has a pickaxe in his inventory. Perkz yet to back, and of course isn't running teleport in this lane. Broxah's trying to get down here, but a ward will spot him out. Jankos just around the corner for G2 if they want to try and turn around this fight. But I think Broxah realizes when he was spotted out, he can't stay around too much longer. Nemesis uses TP in mid. I believe Caps will answer that with a teleport of his own.
Right now, Caps is... Okay, he's going to start walking back towards mid lane.
He's watching the fight bottom.
Yeah, he is. Has an eye on it. I think Jankos is only here just so the bot lane can help push this underneath the tower so they can look for a base. Because remember, they don't have the teleport, so having to walk back to lane while it's frozen in this position, not the best setup for G2.
This is both teams being very aware of Caps having TP and Nemesis not having it. Fnatic not overreaching and overcommitting when they were at a numbers disadvantage potentially, and Caps walking back to lane, knowing that if Fnatic did overstep, he would be there to close the trap with G2.
But at the end of the day, Fnatic still get what they wanted, which is a wave pushing towards them. If we have a look back down towards the bot side of the map, we can actually see how Hylissang walked up towards the wave to get the push going in his favor, and that means the Rekkles is able to slowly pick up this farm that's actually pushing towards Fnatic. So they're taking advantage of the teleport that they have to create a CS discrepancy between Rekkles and Perkz.
Speaking of CS discrepancies, I want to bring your attention to the top lane. In game one, when we saw Bwipo play Jax into the Kled, it was a relatively even affair up towards the top side. Here, Wunder has a 20 CS lead at only the 7-minute mark.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how we got that, especially seeing as Jankos hasn't actually invested a huge amount of time towards the top side of the map. And we didn't see anything crazy, but we do see a bit of fighting towards the bot side.
Rekkles in the Spirit's Refuge won't be stunned up yet. Hylissang with the taunt only lands onto Mikyx, and Jankos is coming in, but it looks like both teams will just handshake in the bottom lane for the time being.
As Vedius was talking about, since this wave is crashing into Hilly and Rekkles, Jankos has to play bot side of the map to cover the fact that Mikyx and Perkz are so far forward in the lane. He's making the most of his time by bringing a control ward and starting out the Ocean Drake, but he should be hovering here anyway, and Fnatic should also have that heads up.
Now remember that in terms of early game expectations, it's not going to be as bloody as it was, especially in game one. We kind of see scaling options on both sides, and for Fnatic, it's very much about splitting up the map. They want to be playing on their side lanes, pushing out those lanes, and then maybe looking to group, whereas G2 will be looking to play around objectives. They'll be looking to team fight with the 5 versus 5 because the scaling on the likes of a Kai'Sa. Oh, as an all-in happens.
Jumping straight onto Mikyx here, the explosive shot lands, but Rekkles going to jump forward, and now the teleport comes in behind them. Rekkles needs to get the kill if he's going to get out. He tries to jump away with the flash as well. The Caps is on the chase, he has the flashes going in. Hylissang trying to tank it up, but Caps steals away the buster shot. Will it be enough damage? Yes, it will. Caps gets another, and now Fnatic are trying to react. Hylissang just about gets into the bush, out of vision. G2 can't find him, but then knocked back. Jankos goes down, and now Caps is the new target. 3 members of Fnatic are going to chase him down. There's no escape for Caps. Fnatic find the kill.
Fnatic are the ones to punish G2. It was an overextension initially from Rekkles. If he'd gotten the kill earlier, he could have jumped to safety. But then G2 say, okay, we can punish Rekkles here. But then because Rekkles survives for so long, G2 overextend in the river and Fnatic look to collapse.
Yeah, but now look at the difference between the mid laners. Look at the CS between Nemesis and Caps. The fact that he also stayed around and got a plate, picked up another kill. As soon as you springboard Akali to that first item, she becomes unkillable. Like, she unlocks the game, has kill pressure on everyone. Gunblade is so important for her.
And we talked about how Caps has not had the best series so far, whereas Nemesis has been that beacon of consistency for Fnatic, and he is continuing to do that as he catapults this lead. Now we get to see the 2v2 in the bot side of the map.
And this is what you were talking about. If Rekkles had just gotten this slightly sooner and able to get out, then it would have been the absolute hero play. That said, still buys his team enough time. Beautiful flash as soon as he hits the ground to get over the wall and really pull G2 in.
You can just see him spamming health bots like, I need more health, I really need it so I can avoid the execute from Caps, but he does what he needs. He buys time, Broxah body blocks the follow-up from the rest of G2 onto Hylissang, which means that Fnatic end up finding 3 kills off the back.
Also want to credit Hilly there with some fancy footwork to make sure that he wasn't also picked up by the spare Perkz shot.
Getting himself into the bush out of vision as well made it very difficult for G2 to pick up that kill. Now 10 minutes in, Fnatic have 1.5 thousand gold lead. A lot of that will sit on Nemesis in the mid lane, and you look at it and you wonder, can he carry from this position? We talk about him as a consistent player, but is he the player that will carry on a big occasion?
That's one of the big questions. It feels like that when push came to shove and a lot of the weight fell onto more all-ins.
Just the Hex Flash, just the Hex Flash.
I like that Hilly and Rekkles tested it there. Perkz and Mikyx have been standing on the top side of the lane though, so they 100% knew that play was incoming.
But coming back to the point about Nemesis, I feel like that very rarely does the responsibility ever actually fall on Nemesis to be the primary carry. Often we talk about how Bwipo is the carry or Rekkles, and again we see Bwipo looking to make plays top lane.
Oh, Wunder with the great flash gets away from Hylissang, who misses the taunt, and now Fnatic have to run for the hills because Hylissang is down below 200 HP. Bwipo trying to trade in, but Wunder is about to remount onto Skull, and Hylissang might want to get the hell out of there because the charge is available. Now, Wunder will not go in.
Look at the bot side of the map. Pings are coming down from G2. Fnatic is trying to claim control over the river, but G2 know that they have a numbers advantage, so they're able to force Broxah and Nemesis back.
I totally understand. The bot side, yes, important stuff happening down there. That was cool!
That was really cool.
I mean, it was a great outplay coming out from the side of Wunder, but at the same time, I'm looking at this from Fnatic. They've now invested their ulti from Hylissang, and he's not able to convert much off the back of it. So G2 doing what they can to hemorrhage some of the leads that Fnatic is building in the early game.
We always talk about the offensive Shen ultimates. You have to be proactive with it. That's what Fnatic were trying to do there, but because of Wunder's outplay, because of the split-second flash, Fnatic find nothing out of it, and now that's that big global burn.
Just wearing a lot of egg on their face. Bwipo and Hilly are like, oh, we've got this dive. Now Jankos looking to turn this one around. Bwipo still has access to his flash, whereas Wunder does not, but does have the ultimate.
Jankos has the Glacial Prison. Bwipo just clearing out the wave. Jankos will realize he was on a ward as he pops down a control of his own, and now Bwipo walks across, says, okay, I can take Jankos in a 1v1. I have a 3-level advantage. But will Wunder join this fight? Now that the Counter-Strike is used, it could be a little bit risky for Bwipo. He jumps away with a Leap Strike, and his control ward will be cleared away. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Hylissang looking to go in once again, but Rekkles hasn't auto-attacked at all that fight. Didn't get any damage down, and Hylissang is ticking below half HP.
So Fnatic continuing to maintain pressure on the bot side of the map. You can see the CS discrepancy building more and more. Broxah now up top lane to support Bwipo as Wunder's getting forced back.
Bear trap on a rope will not quite get the second connection of Jankos is around the corner, but here is the chase of the Glacial Prism lands. It's Broxah who's tanking up the tower. He will pay for the dive with his life because Jankos is waiting for him to pop out of the stopwatch. Broxah trying to survive, but that Sejuani should be able to chase him down. Maybe Broxah's been able to escape. No, he has not. Jankos comes in with the Arctic Assault, but he has saved time. Bwipo coming in from the side, has the counter-strike, will land the stun, and now Jankos has overextended for the kill, and Bwipo will happily accept 2 in return.
And that dive, much better played this time around from Fnatic. Broxah and Bwipo, expertly done. Broxah buying the time with a perfectly placed stopwatch. Jankos knew he had to follow him. He couldn't immediately turn to Bwipo, and it buys time for Bwipo to turn all the way around the map and pick up the kill on Jankos.
The lack of flash on Wunder meant that no outplays for him this time around, and Fnatic are able to pick up 2 kills. Broxah with a great stopwatch as well, buying a lot of time. So Fnatic right now sit with a 2k gold advantage, and again, we talk about it at the beginning of every game. The team with the early game gold lead tends to be the team that ends up coming out on top, largely because both these teams are very good at converting a lead into a win. So we'll see if G2 can reclaim some control back over the map as Fnatic looks to continue aggressing onto G2.
Wunder should just be able to walk away from this one. Broxah clears out the vision control. Caps is hovering around the bottom side of this river, and Nemesis might look for him as the Scuttle Crab is the target. Nemesis gets it. Better mid laner for sure as he secures that one. But I do want to come back to that early game lead you were talking about, Vedius. In pick and ban, you and we all talked about the fact that the solo lanes for Fnatic, if they got ahead, could dominate this game. If you look at Bwipo and his gold, he's actually pretty even with Wunder because of the CS difference. But mid lane, Nemesis has about a 700 gold lead over Caps, and so that should be where Fnatic's looking to now accelerate this game.
And you can see that Nemesis has the confidence because of that to bully Caps off of things like the Scuttle Crab and to keep them locked down in the lane. And because Bwipo and Nemesis have control over top and mid lane, it makes things like an easy Rift Herald just a drive-by for Fnatic.
Let's also not forget that with Hylissang being on this Shen, it makes attacking the side lanes extremely easy. We saw an example of it in the top lane, which, while it didn't work out for Fnatic initially, they can just keep making this play later on into the game. That Jax 1v1 will not always be a 1v1 because the Shen ultimate is primed and ready to help support it.
Bwipo uses the Rift Herald up towards the top side, but meanwhile in the bottom side of the map, Perkz goes golden, dodges out from the cast. Stan United use onto Broxah, but Caps is on the chase, and G2 had the first kill of the game. Rekkles there, coming across, first kill of the fight indeed. Nemesis jumping forward into perfect execution. Rekkles needs to get some autos in if Fnatic are going to turn this one around because G2 at the moment are happy with their single kill. They'll back away. The Rift Herald in top lane didn't do too much for Bwipo either.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, was the fact that Wunder was able to stave off the Rift Herald. Bwipo didn't push down the tower, but this is kind of what I expect. The play patterns need to change. If Fnatic have so much control over the map when they start opening up into a 1-3-1 because they have the Shin, they have the Akali, they have the Jax, I expect G2 to look at forcing fights.
Here we go, Caps with the stolen barrel and Hylissang with no escape. The charge comes in from Wunder, but Nemesis is able to retreat back towards his tower.
Forcing fights by stealing things like the Gragas ultimate, by utilizing Wunder's ultimate, and by having the Sejuani. Because eventually G2 are going to get frustrated playing the side lane game, and they're just going to sprint at Fnatic with their heart engaged.
So we can see that G2 actually tried to force a pick onto Broxah, and Caps completely ignoring Hylissang, says, okay, my priority is on killing Broxah. Want to note as well, ooh, Caps.
Nemesis doesn't have ult, doesn't have ult.
Still, I think he had enough damage to kill there, but he didn't want to go underneath the tower. Not going to choose to take that one, but I wanted to give credit to Mikyx with his exhaust onto Nemesis, who was looking to execute Perkz, but because of the exhaust, would not have had enough damage, allowing Perkz to run away to safety. So good awareness there from the support of G2.
And as we enter the more open portion of this game, as towers start to fall, it's pretty even. 2,000 gold in favor of Fnatic. Double Ocean on the side of G2 though. And with an Ocean spawning soon, that is a massive buff you get when you look for some of these teamfight resets. You're just regenerating 12% of your health and mana every 5 seconds. If G2 can secure that, when we get to teamfights, they're going to be incredibly strong.
And I have a feeling that some fights should be happening. You basically have everything that you want on both sides. A lot of key summoners up, a lot of key ultimates up. I think at this point, with the Trinity Force and the Gunblade completed for Nemesis and Bwipo, both their side lanes being online, and when Stan United is available, that it's going to be about how Fnatic are creating fights around this Akali and this Jax.
I think one of the problems for Fnatic right now is that because there are still so many towers up, they can't properly play through the side lanes. You can see how extended this Jax is in the top side of the map, and this is naturally quite dangerous. You can look to get collapsed on the side of G2, so Bwipo has to be very careful when he's setting up this push. Right now, he has no information on where anyone is. Jankos, on the other hand, will spot out Nemesis.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that's a fight he wants to take. Caps is coming back through mid. We'll be there in a moment.
It's more about the fact that if Bwipo's going to be that far forward, that Fnatic have to go hunting for G2. Nemesis has to get in Sejuani's face because they need to figure out where these members are to make sure that Bwipo can be safe when he does extend that far top lane. So Fnatic are actually just trying to do their job, scouting out where G2 are in the jungle, not necessarily looking for the fight, but trying to create a safety net whenever Bwipo's that far.
Bwipo now has rotated towards the mid lane. Nemesis trading in. Caps trying to do what he can. Has ultimate to steal away. Jumps in forward. Here's the Stand United though, and Caps has dived too greedily. He has dived too deep, and he is shot down by the man who replaced him.
And time again, Fnatic going back to this tried-true strategy of using global ultimates to counteract when G2 overreach for these very greedy picks.
Jankos not able to land the ultimate, and now Fnatic extend their gold lead even more. They have the right set on the mid tier 1, and if they can take this down, their composition could really start to come online.
And their composition is actually really good at taking structures, not just because of the Tristana range and safety, but because of the threat of the Gragas ultimate. If Broxah has that ult and they have a good wave behind them, as soon as some of that damage starts funneling down on G2 members, they'll feel confident to force them off the tower, force the fight into Hilly's waiting Shin arms.
And as the game has just slowed down for a moment, I do want to remind everyone what is at stake here. Both these teams qualified for Worlds, but the winner of this will take the first seed, will not have to play in the gauntlet. Alongside that, G2 have never gone through Fnatic to win an LEC title. Froskurinn, you say it best, not all titles are created equal, and if Fnatic could stymie G2 once again, I'm sure that it would be very disheartening for the G2 team.
G2 have slayed Origin, Splice, Misfits, Unicorns of Love, and Origin again. The last time they met Fnatic in the finals, it did not end well, and this seems to be a setup for a potential repeat, as Fnatic feel pretty confident in this game so far with a 5k gold lead.
The thing we're still looking at though is the scaling aspect for G2, and you've got to remember that Fnatic, if they get baited into fights, there's a really good opportunity for G2 to just come out on top. Because even though Fnatic still have scaling aspects on their side, yes, Tristana going to be very strong in the late game fights. Yes, Akali still going to be able to one-shot a backline. G2's comp is just better built to fight with their crowd control and peel. We might see a fight right now.
Fight begins. Jankos secures the Dragon Box is in the pit and he's almost down. He gets taken out, sniped by Perkz, and now the charge comes in from the side. Perkz surviving on the backline as Bwipo takes down Jankos. Mikyx low, down to half HP. Rekkles jumping forward. They've gone for Perkz. They've assassinated him. And now G2 have fallen apart. Mikyx will flash away, but Fnatic say you are not escaping today. The chase continues as Wunder dodges away with the joust. But here comes Bwipo. Leap strike after leap strike. Chasing down G2. Nemesis looking for the catch. Can't quite find it. But Hylissang has the flash taunt here if he wants it. Bwipo goes down. Caps coming back in. The barrel doesn't land, but the taunt comes out. And now it's an all-right brawl in the bottom lane. And it's Fnatic who are coming out on top.
Caps crumbles as he completely misses the Gragas ultimate. He could have knocked all those members of Fnatic underneath the tower and won that team fight for G2, but it is Fnatic that are able to stymie the pressure from G2, that come out ahead in the team fight, and now they sit at a 5k gold advantage. They walk away with another tower. Fnatic beating G2 in the fight.
And it was the fact that G2 led them perfectly to a timed wave, so it wasn't just the fight. Yeah, they lost the Dragon. That's now triple ocean in the favor of G2. But they get to take the team fight, they get massive shutdown, and then they turn and take the tower.
And we saw how tanky Bwipo was on the front line. And again, we talked about how Fnatic have team fight options, but G2's comp is better set up for it. The problem is you can see how chunked Caps gets at the start of the fight, and Mikyx's not in the brawl. A lot of the crowd control isn't there on the primary targets, so Perkz doesn't get the same peel that he typically would. Mikyx is doing what he can, but you can see just how much Bwipo is tanking up, and there's nothing stopping him from just running down the back line.
And you can see the chase continues here. It looks for a moment like Bwipo has just dived a little bit too deep into the fight. He jumps forward, takes a tower shot.
Yeah, and the big shutdown comes from Wunder, and here we see the ultimate from Cat completely misses. If that had landed onto Nemesis and Hylissang, this could have easily been a huge team fight win, but Fnatic are able to avoid it. They find another 2 kills.
And I just want to praise Hylissang again there. He had flash taunt the entire fight, and he held it until Caps joined the fight. He has had an impeccable performance so far this series.
But now you have a situation where Bwipo is sitting on the Spear of Shojin, has the Trinity Force. The lane assignments that Fnatic can force with this Jax, or even in the team fight, they're feeling so confident. G2 are really running out of time about their options of how to deal with the side lane. Fnatic now have that open map. The towers have gone down. There's more ways for them to attack this state of the game, in my opinion.
And it's not only Bwipo who's strong. Look at Rekkles, look at Nemesis, topping the gold charts. Both of them over 1,000 ahead of their G2 counterpart.
And I want to point out the fact that Bwipo doesn't have access to TP, but is bottom. And I think this is the call that with the Stand United available, Bwipo's like, I can just run this in. If anyone fights me, I can kill them. And if it turns into a bad situation, I've got Hilly in my back pocket. We don't need the TP to force the Baron play. We can actually force on this in-hit.
Exactly that. I completely agree with you, Frosk. I feel that Fnatic can very easily play on all 3 waves right now, and G2 will struggle to answer. Their best bet is for Fnatic to start a Baron, and then G2 can get a successful team fight. So Fnatic just don't need to force it. They can take their time. They can leverage the strength of their 2 solo laners to be able to threaten on these side lanes.
And this is one of the key differences when you have a side laner like a Jax versus something like a Vladimir. You have more options to play for the structure itself because of how quickly you can tear through those structures rather than just playing for the pressure point of the wave and playing the TP game into the team fight around Baron.
Fnatic also doing a great job of leveraging the strong wave clear that Tristana has in order to keep mid pushed in. G2 are being divided as they constantly answer the sideways, and so Fnatic can keep pathing into G2's topside jungle and clearing out all this vision.
That's what they've done for the moment, but G2 are going to come out and try and get some vision of their own. Only 2 control wards in the G2 inventories. Want to see what Fnatic get when they reset, because there's not that many slots open, but my assumption is we'll start to see some more control wards pinging into the Fnatic inventories.
And as we've talked about kind of Fnatic's map setup, looking across on G2, they've done a really good job making sure that they're securing Scuttlecrab, that they're getting that defensive vision, and they're not just losing control over mid lane priority. I do want to mention the deep wards that Fnatic have behind them, because you still have TP access to Nemesis.
I do want to note as well that Fnatic have actually mismanaged their resets here. We saw Nemesis go to base first, then we saw Hylissang after him, then Rekkles and Broxah, and then Bwipo. And because they staggered their backs, it actually gave G2 a lot of freedom to gain access towards their top side. And if we again look back at the minimap, you'll notice that they have all this control on the river, they have all this control on the top side as well, and this means that they have a lot more safety around Baron. So G2 comfortably stalling the game out right now, as Fnatic are actually looking to group up in mid as the Infernal spawns in 5 seconds.
Infernal next on the menu. G2 did pick up that last Ocean, so you'll see how quickly they regenerate outside of combat. But Fnatic aren't looking for drawn-out, disengage, re-engage fights. G2 might look straight for a Baron.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and trade this, create that pressure point, because they have full control over the river. They know that Fnatic is going towards the Infernal, but they don't realize that Rekkles is doing it solo, so they're not going to take the risk. They're just going to disengage.
Yeah, really good job from Fnatic to split their team, make sure that Rekkles could just pick that one solo. I was thinking that G2 might even be setting up for a potential 2-man Baron. You have a very tanky member of Sejuani. Kai'Sa will shred through that objective. So both teams are kind of on their best behavior not to leave one of these big monster objectives unattended.
G2 have slowly continued to scale up in this game. You've got almost 3 items complete on Perkz. You've got Ludens and Hextech on Caps. Protobelt is there. Bwipo down towards the bottom lane. Doesn't quite have the TP.
But they keep pulling Bwipo into these fights, so it tells me that Fnatic want it. And with that flash, you can see they're not trying to play out the map, even though we've talked about the multiple tools that they have. They keep pulling Bwipo to group up with them.
Very dangerous there from Caps. He almost lost his life. Wasn't forced to burn the flash though, he just used his E. Fnatic using that time to reclaim some vision control around the topside river. And now you can see both teams starting to group up. I would much prefer to see Bwipo just sitting in a bot lane, threatening that tower, because I feel that Fnatic, while they could win a team fight, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I feel that they're in a much stronger position when they're playing the entire map, when they're leveraging their split pushing power. Because have a look at Perkz. He now has 3 completed items, fully stacked. This Kai'Sa is online and ready to go.
I completely agree with you, Vedius. I actually think it's a pretty big miss that Fnatic aren't just exploiting Bwipo's power with Hilly out into a side lane. And in fact, we've slowed down the game a lot. Like you just talked about, G2 have now amassed all of this gold into their back pocket, and they're finding a foot back into this game.
And again, look, you can see Fnatic mismanaging their back timers. Ooh, Shen
standing ignited straight away. Nemesis looking for the fight. Caps ignited, trying to jump away. He goes golden just at the right time, but the redemption's coming out, and the rest of Fnatic are on their way. Caps somehow escapes, but can Jankos do it too? Flash, Arctic Assault away. Perkz hits the Void Seeker from long range. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Bwipo and the Kled are fighting. Broxah goes golden to avoid Perkz, but the rest of Fnatic are pushing forward. Caps is going to back away. Look at that regen, though. He could stay if this fight continues.
I can't believe G2 actually got away with that. This was the play play we talked about very early on where Fnatic could use the Shen ultimate to find a pick on a side lane, but they're not able to do it. Cap still has teleport available, which is why Fnatic can't afford to start the Baron right now, and Mikyx, he's just hanging around, ready to try and contest if Fnatic want to force anything.
Hylissang looked for the Hex Flash, but even if Fnatic had chunked out G2 more, they couldn't go for the Baron. You have to kill G2, otherwise they are just going to regenerate before you can get that Baron down.
Which is why that felt like a massive save from Jankos to secure his own life there. If he dies, 100% that's the Baron. You can see he was waiting for the Gragas cast to come out. He was trying to sidestep. Broxah didn't even try to throw it. Jankos survives another day, and Hilly is now on a massive cooldown with that Shen ultimate, which means that play that we wanted to see, that Fnatic eventually pulled the trigger on top side, has this massive cooldown. And again, we're in a position. Fnatic fumbled their back timers. They didn't reset correctly together. They're not playing towards their side lane, and they're giving time for G2 to continue to get gold, get their items, and get back in the game.
Now, admittedly, Fnatic is getting stronger themselves, right? Nemesis has the death cap completed. You can see that Bwipo just hit the level 16 mark. It's not like Fnatic are weak, and I really want to reiterate, of course, they can still win a fight. But when you think about Jackson, where he's strongest, it's when he's in that 1v1, when he's sieging down towers. And right now, Fnatic, it feels like that they're more focused on trying to find a fight or trying to find a pick, when I feel like they could be utilizing the power of their silences more.
Hilly now has the Stand United back up off of cooldown. You can see that Bwipo's now been kicked down towards the bottom side. So again, round 2 for Fnatic in this map setup.
Feels like two boxers landing blows on each other, trying to find an avenue of approach, trying to find a gap in the opponent's armor, but right now both teams are standing stalwart and strong. Fnatic set up at the Baron, it's the two-man. They're going for it with Tristana and Gragas, but here comes Perkz. Lands the long range for Seeker, and the fight will continue. The Baron resets, Glacial Prism misses, that's the big ultimate down, and Fnatic might look for a little bit more of this fight. Broxah off towards the side, Hylissang coming in from the mid lane. And G2 able to reset the Baron, but Fnatic get the Glacial Prism out.
It feels like we're inches from disaster for either team right there. These big key ultimates being used. As soon as Jankos throws the ult, he's like, we need to back off, we're waiting on massive cooldowns. But this is a single fight from a Baron that can very quickly turn this game in either direction.
Oh, here we go. Fnatic starting it off once again. But look at how much access G2 has to the Baron.
Oh, G2 are here. Nemesis has the flank position. Broxah was there as well, but Fnatic just reset it once again.
Note that Fnatic still have all of their outer towers up and available, so even if G2 was able to secure this objective, it doesn't necessarily mean that they immediately convert into a game. Oh no, Perkz!
Oh, Perkz able to dodge away with a killer instinct.
Oh, so close there. Backing there is a very dangerous thing to do, but now Fnatic are set up to make the split push happen. Here is Bwipo in the bot lane, the Baron is starting.
And they're going to force G2 to make a decision right now. You are running out of time. Do you force the fight?
Here we go, here we go. Hylissang on the front line. Nemesis down to about half HP. They've actually disengaged. Fnatic say, okay, we don't want it. Wunder's gone down towards the bottom lane, and Bwipo is resetting, trying to join his team.
And I actually really like this call from Fnatic to constantly start and stop the Baron. Something that their composition does really well is actually turn off of Baron. They have so much mobility. You saw it the last time that they tried to two-man it, that Hilly can just Shen taunt over the wall. Rekkles can just Goomba stomp his way to safety. So it's perfectly fine for Fnatic to constantly test G2's vision, test their luck, start the Baron. And if G2 rock up, that's fine. You get away scot-free.
I feel like, though, if Fnatic actually wanted to fight, that was their best window to do it. Perkz used both his ult and his flash because he took a very greedy base, with which Fnatic immediately tried to punish, but they did not feel confident enough. So they disengage, they don't go for the fight, and G2 have more time to stall. And, you know, we talk a lot about levels. Caps now hitting level 16, Wunder hitting level 16, Fnatic starting off the Baron again, and G2 looks like they can't approach.
Perkz isn't there. G2 can't approach. It's Bwipo and Broxah doing it by themselves. And now Jankos and Caps are going to step forward. They'll realize that Nemesis is acting against the Baron. So Rekkles teleporting into the hit, I believe, or somewhere around
disengage
it.
again.
They've disengaged again.
But very slowly, obviously Rekkles using his TP into the mid lane, so it was just Bwipo and Broxah there trying to do a lot of the damage to the Baron, which is why it was taking so long. But again, you see the freedom of movement for Fnatic's composition to continuously kind of duck and dodge out of that Baron pit.
But it feels so frustrating if you're watching as a Fnatic fan, because you can see ways in which they can win the game, but it feels like they're so tunneled on this Baron that they're not leveraging the strength of what their composition has available to them.
And that strength is Bwipo in a side lane. Put him out there, get him to teleport into the fight if it does start. They've taken a Cloud Drake, that's great. But Fnatic, you have these powerful solo laners. Akali is 3-0-3 with a Death Cap, with a Gunblade, with a Leandris. He's so powerful. You've got a 3-item Jax as well. You need to put him in those side lanes.
Things do get a little bit harder now that Wunder has kind of caught up in itemization, has GA, has Skarl, so it's not like Bwipo can just kind of free dive the Kled now if he wants to try to force the play.
Here we go. It's Perkz. He's being caught out. There's no escape. He uses the killing instinct of the cleanse, but in the end, Bwipo will take the kill, and now Hylissang's here to help the fight. And it's Wunder on the front line. Mikyx trying to back him up. Wunder still has the GA. Fnatic healed up with a redemption, but towards the bottom of the fight. Nemesis was almost caught out by Jankos and Caps, and now Fnatic are on the offensive. Fnatic are on the front foot. Rekkles is jumping forward, but they can't find anything more. Fnatic turn to Baron. They're looking for it. They know that Perkz is down for another 30 seconds.
So Fnatic finally find the pick that they were looking for, and it comes off the back of Bwipo finding a kill onto Perkz. He had no flash available. He gets run down in the middle lane, and now Fnatic should just take this Baron completely uncontested.
33 minutes in the end, they take the Baron, a 9,000 gold lead now for Fnatic, and we will see how effective they can be with this incredible buff.
And again, it feels like the adaptation of we can no longer just kill and dive Wunder, but we can start team fighting with this Jax and making picks. It's Perkz that steps way too far forward. Bwipo sees his instantaneous moment, jump, and doesn't even need to use the flash. Pops him like a balloon.
A second mistake now from Perkz, overstepping in the mid lane, and he rightfully got punished by Fnatic. This was the opportunity that they've been waiting for. They find it, and now with the Baron, it should be extremely easy for them to break into the base of G2.
Especially with this type of composition, we saw how easily Tristana could walk up to the tower. Again, reminder, she's got a Gragas behind her. It's not like you can dive onto her. He can disengage her away when you have, what, the Tristana ultimate, the Gragas ultimate, and then if they ever are fancying their luck, they chip down G2, you throw the cast, you force the fight.
In a game defined by inches, a single moment can change the entire thing. Perhaps we've seen Fnatic's moment there as they were struggling to find a way onto the Baron, but in the end, Perkz overstepped, he was caught, and now with 2 minutes left on this buff, they are trying to sync up these waves. Mid lane tower still remains, but the top and the bot are on towards the inhibitor towers. Look at the wave sync. Double cannon, one cannon left in the top lane. Jankos jumping in, they're looking for Nemesis, but the Stand United comes out straight away and he's able to dodge away. And now the rest of Fnatic will look towards that mid lane. Try and open up on the tower, can't quite get there because the wave comes out. Mikyx jumps forward. Rekkles opening up the big guns, chips away at Mikyx's health. But meanwhile in the top lane, Fnatic are pulling G2 all over the map. They're trying to get onto the inhibitor, can't quite get it yet. But the rest of Fnatic are pushing in, trying to join up with their team because here comes the next wave. Jankos and Perkz defending in top. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, Bwipo is facing against Wunder and Caps. The mid wave is pushing in. Rekkles trying to get it, but Mikyx is able to stand there at the moment. Wunder going in with a bear trap on the rope in the bottom lane, and you can see Caps is on the chase. But what can Fnatic do with this? Bwipo's down, and Fnatic were not able to use that time to crack the base.
Fnatic actually could not crack the inhibitor towers, which means that G2's base stay alive, and Fnatic, they lose their big carry in the form of Bwipo on a side lane. G2, the fact that they're able to continue stalling, admittedly, G2 have not been able to find any successful fights so far this game, but the longer they stall, the more opportunities they have.
I think we're actually at a point where Bwipo can't deal with Wunder. Not that Wunder
will
kill him.
To be fair.
No, but I mean, like, not that Wunder will kill Bwipo,
right,
but like, Wunder can easily walk away from Bwipo. He's so tanky now with Skarl and GA, as well as having his ultimate, that it's just eating up a lot of Bwipo's time. And I think this is why you're seeing that change of gears. And Fnatic need to kind of figure out a different way to solve this Rubik's Cube of how they're going to crack G2. Whereas G2 now finding so much confidence to look for these team fights and being very successful at stalling out Fnatic.
Well, maybe the Elder Dragon is the opportunity for Fnatic. Up in 30 seconds, G2 with Triple Ocean would love to have it.
So look at the sideways right now. You'll notice that top is in a position that G2 don't actually have to worry about this. They're gaining mid-prio, which means that they can actually win the challenge. But here comes a flank from Fnatic.
Here we go. One fight to define the game, one fight to win it. If you're Fnatic, but Perkz jumps away. Bwipo trying to get in from the backside. Wunder jumping over the back of the Fnatic lines, and Nemesis has a flank position. He's caught over the Glacier Prism, but the Standing United will keep him alive for the moment. He's shut down! Nemesis goes down! Wunder goes into the GA, and the rest of G2 are trying to get them in time, but Wunder's on the wrong side of the wall. In the end, it will be a 1-1 trade. The taunt comes out. Rekkles could jump forward. Fnatic are looking for that final kill. They just need one. They just need the resets. Rekkles opening up with the guns, but they can't quite find it.
Fnatic have the health advantage, and remember, Rekkles at this point in the game could just solo the Elder Drake, so G2 have to be so careful. Waves are pushing in the bot side of the map. Caps does have the teleport to join, but look, Rekkles is starting it off.
And look at Hilly, he got in underneath them.
Jankos caught out, the counter-strike comes out, but Jankos wants to stopwatch just for the moment. The taunt comes out onto Mikyx. Jankos is down, the TP coming in from Caps, straight into all 4 members of his former team. And Caps cannot survive that. Rekkles gets away on the backline, Caps goes down. It's a double from Bwipo, and Fnatic have found their moment.
And the solution for Fnatic in this Rubik's Cube is simply to rip it apart. They use the TP, they force the fight onto G2. They say, we are no longer about the side lanes, we will take the 5v5, and they outperform in the end.
And the biggest thing was that Fnatic had the health advantage to stall out, for Bwipo to go back to base and then TP back into the fight. They secured themselves the Elder Drake, but we saw how close these fights can be, how difficult it is for Nemesis and Bwipo to dive the backline because of how much crowd control and utility is available to G2 in this composition. Fnatic do come out on top, but they have to be cautious.
But a huge thing is now Wunder isn't working with his GA, and that means a lot when he's soaking up so much time between Skarl and the GA. Key itemization there, and that puts a big hole in G2's team fight if we come to another even 5v5.
Well, with the Baron up in just a minute's time, Fnatic will be trying to use this Elder Dragon buff as much as possible. G2, though, still have the tools for a fight. We've got the Glacial Prism. Let's look what flashes are up. Fnatic, Bwipo doesn't have his, but the rest are available. Perkz, no flash. Caps, no flash. Jankos and Wunder, no flash. If one of them is caught out, they are very likely to die.
I mean, at this point, G2 are like, they've got the Elder, just stay away from them. Clean snipe from Perkz there to pick up the blue buff, deny that one away from Fnatic. But otherwise, G2 are fishing. If they can find a strong numbers advantage, get a pick, that's fine. But otherwise, as soon as that Elder rocks up to you, you just disengage from that, live to fight another day.
Fnatic are just waiting for the Baron themselves. 10 seconds is the spawn, and they have the Elder, so they should just be able to melt through this one. And G2, they don't want to run the risk of the contest. So it's going to come down to one last bout from the side of G2. They're going to have to hold the line. They're going to have to make the miracle fight happen, because the reality is Fnatic sit with an 11k gold advantage, and even if their comp isn't that easy to execute in terms of the 5v5, you can make up for the deficit by having this kind of a gold lead.
39 minutes in. Fnatic have been knocking on the base of G2 for what feels like an eternity, but perhaps this Baron will be the moment that they break through that inhibitor line. In fact, this game reminds me a lot of Spring Split, when Fnatic and G2 fought for ages. It came down to team fights, and in the end, Rekkles and Hylissang were able to get the back door. Here, Fnatic, in a position of ascendancy, will be looking to close out in the next 3 minutes.
You can see G2 grouping up on the top side of the map. Notice that Rekkles is sitting in the shadows right now as Hylissang looks to push. He's bait. They're trying to use Hylissang as a means to, hey, look, come and attack me, while 2 members of Fnatic continue to push in the bot lane. Bwipo is there.
Quite similar to how Hilly uses his pike,
Yep.
the mobility on his pike when he has Baron buff. Because the thing is if Hilly decides to leave this wave and then go join these 2 down here, Rekkles rocks up behind him and then just pushes forward and takes complete towers with the Tristana speed like that.
Tower goes down in the top lane. There's a huge wave down here in the bottom. Wunder and Jankos trying to defend, but the inhibitor is the new target for Fnatic in that top side. Bwipo jumping in, Wunder's going to joust away, but the inhibitor has fallen in top, and now Fnatic will open their eyes towards the bottom lane. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, the inhibitor tower goes down. Jankos caught out a little bit by Broxah, who chucked out the cards, and now the Stand United comes onto Bwipo. He's stunned up, but he can't die. It's Fnatic, they're unkillable. They die underneath the Nexus towers. Bwipo goes into the GA, but look at the damage that Rekkles can put down. He jumps forward, trying to catch onto Caps, but the exhaust will stop him in his tracks. In the end, Caps falls, and in a game of inches, in a game of moments, Fnatic fight their way to match point.
It was a slow and steady game from the side of Fnatic, but in the end, they do not relent control. They did not drop a single tower that game. So while there were criticisms from us towards their ability to play the split push, at the end of the day, G2 never found an opportunity against them. And there were glimmers, there were small chances, but Fnatic still continued to come out on top, continued to win the fights, and they ended up ending the game.
So much of this series and the conversation around these 2 teams clashing was, would Fnatic break? How strong is their mentality after the last time these teams faced? Do you only get one shot at G2 to look for the 3-0? But you can see it on Rekkles' face. Fnatic can smell it. You can hear it in the crowd. The crowd definitely knows that this looks like the brink for G2 because Fnatic are beating them in standard League of Legends. They're not relying on these picks like the Karma, like the Twisted Fate, like the Rakan.
And as much as everyone knew Fnatic was strong coming into the finals, I think most people would say G2 were the favorites, probably pretty firm favorites coming into it. So to see Fnatic have such power and force in Game 3 after losing Game 2, this could be a huge upset.
But here's the thing, because it's G2, there's always that little voice in your head.
It's the 2-1 power spike that Perkz always talks about.
You're like, you never know if it's actually over. And I feel like there's a good possibility that we get 5 games because G2 were still throwing some punches in that game when it felt like Fnatic could have very firmly closed the door on them.
Well, we'll see what could have been the knockout blow here from a Fnatic. Bwipo teleporting behind, leading into the Elder Dragon for Fnatic in the end.
So what we see here is, what I really want to reinforce is how difficult it is for the backline to jump onto Perkz. You can see immediate exhaust, everyone is peeling for the AD carry, while Wunder is keeping everyone preoccupied. So they then killed the Akali. The thing to note is when Bwipo chooses to reset, because you'll see that Fnatic actually have a health advantage, even though 3 Ocean Drakes lie on the side of G2. So he's going to look to go for a base, and then he's going to push in mid, base, and then look for the TP in once. Oh, he's not even going to ball a TP back in.
After the TP event.
Ah, yeah, of course. So he's then going to jump into the fight and then re-engage. And so a really good setup from the side of Fnatic, and just that re-engage, recognizing that G2 is forced to stick around because of how easy it is for Fnatic to be able to actually force that out.
It's also kind of those classic moments, like the fact that Fnatic are getting these key control wards underneath in G2's jungle, allowing Hilly to get these classic Hilly flanks. And I kind of want to go back to what I feel is almost like the thesis of this game, which does start in the bot lane. And it felt like things were slowing down. That seems to favor G2. You know, Rekkles and Hilly didn't just absolutely demolish them, but with this Shin pick, even though there weren't a lot of kills being traded back and forth, Rekkles and Hilly still had so much pressure. And that means so much because it bleeds into Jankos and it slows down our summer MVP.
Well, only one win stands between Fnatic and the LEC title as we prepare for match point here in Athens. Don't you go anywhere. But now with the exhaust coming down, Perkz will land the red buff slow, and Broxah is in for a world of hurt. There's no escape. G2 first blood.
I can fight. Good fight. Go, fight. Nice.
Take all their bot side, I think.
Wants to try to force the
Here we
play.
go. It's Perkz. He's being caught out. There's no escape. He uses killing instinct to the cleanse, but in the end, Bwipo will take the kill, and now Hylissang's here to help the fight. Jankos is down. The TP coming in from Caps, straight into all 4 members of his former team, and Caps cannot survive that. Rekkles gets away on the backline. Caps goes down. Look at the damage that Rekkles can put down. He jumps forward, trying to catch onto Caps, but the exhaust will stop him in his tracks. In the end, Caps falls, and in a game of inches, in a game of moments, Fnatic fight their way to match point.
I'm Jankos,
I'm Froskurinn.
and we're going to be answering questions in sneakers. Answering questions in sneakers.
Oh. What'd your parents think you do?
Interpretive dance instructor.
Okay. My mom thinks I'm a star of the YouTubes.
Oh, your mom's such a...
Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Suicide if you ever try